A few days ago, it became pretty widespread knowledge that people had glitched into some of the developer rooms in Fallout 76 and were getting exclusive items. In reality, people had been doing this for quite a few weeks at this point. It really only got popularized just a couple of days ago when a couple of mainstream outlets started picking it up, but also more specifically, several of the people doing this actually ended up getting banned. Effectively, the way this works is there's certain developer cells all around the map in Fallout 76. The exact same thing existed in previous games like Fallout 4. They typically had one of every item, but also some test items or even some items for future DLCs. Well, one such item was this lunchbox, which is going to be a big chunk of what I talk about in this video. So this is a video I've been pretty wary to make. I wasn't sure if I actually wanted to do it. I've had the information about some of these lunchboxes and the fact that people were finding them in game for quite a few days at this point. And at the end of some videos, I was sharing details about this, but without giving really the full picture. The reason being, in the past, I gotten copyright strikes from Bethesda for showing off this content. And the reason I'm actually choosing to make a video now is I know there are other videos out there, and I know other news outlets have gotten their hands on them. So I figured at this point, it's either now or never for me to actually make a video on this information and this content, in hopes of actually being pretty clear and objective about what this is and what this isn't as of right now, because I feel like this is something that other people are not going to cover correctly. So first and foremost, how is this lunchbox acquired? It technically is in everyone's game. Again, it's one of those developer cells. There are several of these all throughout the map, and there's no traditional way of actually getting into it. It's not like you can glitch through a wall and just get there. You actually have to teleport your character to that location. In the past, you could do this in Fallout 4 just by using console commands. In Fallout 76, it's a little bit more complex, but it basically works the same way. Typically, it's either a script that you run along the game or even just some kind of third-party program to actually get you into some of these locations. And even though videos and even more than that actually popped up around these rooms, one that didn't seem to get a ton of coverage, at least by mainstream news outlets, was the Atomic Shop one, effectively being one room where you could find most of the items in the Atomic Shop. In my previous video covering this, I talked about how some people are going into this, taking things out, duping them, and then actually passing them around, effectively getting Atomic Shop items for free. Well, seemingly some of the people that actually glitched into those rooms found a lunchbox, and that's how I eventually ended up finding this image and then the video I will show you. So one of the interesting things about this is, even though the vast majority of people glitching into developer rooms and dev cells did end up getting banned, we saw these ban emails, which is honestly pretty justified. They are explicitly using cheats to teleport around the map. What was sent to me is actually from before this ban wave, but also after. In other words, this person was able to still get into this room and recover this lunchbox. Although who knows, maybe his ban is just pending and coming at some point in the future. Either way, as far as what is actually going on here, as you see it in your inventory, it is an aid item with a description of start the party open near your friends so everyone can enjoy. With one other notable thing that it does have the Atomic Shop icon next to it. Basically, if you have any items from the Atomic Shop, it will have that little, I guess it's an atom icon, whatever you want to call it. Moving on, after you actually open it, you do get a custom animation. This was the video I shared in the past, and you can see confetti shoots out of it, and on the side it does say you've received a party favor, and you get that on-screen animation. I assume that everyone in the vicinity is going to get this bonus. Even beyond that, the lunchbox textures look fairly low. I think the person in the background might be playing on a lower resolution, or maybe those textures will be updated at a later date. They're just placeholders from previous Fallout games. So in effect right now, what this actually does is just make it so when you kill enemies, they'll explode with confetti. This being a passive status effect that you can see in your Pip-Boy, and of course only lasting for a certain amount of time. And it honestly looks pretty cool. It definitely is a pretty cool effect. It feels pretty special. You have to assume other players will also see this and they'll be like, oh, how is that person doing that? And as of right now, in game, based on my understanding of those people who have actually gotten them, there's no buffs to the player. It's just a cosmetic difference. You use this lunchbox, you get that crazy confetti thing, and as you kill animals for a limited time, you will also get a confetti effect on them. But this isn't the first time we've heard about these lunchboxes, and I think one piece of this whole opening transition actually has me curious as to if there isn't a lot more to these. So you can see as the lunchbox opens, you get what almost looks like meat or like a chicken hand or something. I couldn't actually make out exactly what this was. I'm pretty sure it's new and unique, but it really doesn't seem to correspond with the confetti effect or the rest of the lunchbox that we actually do see. But if you actually go back and look at previous data mines, things I've talked about in the past, I feel like this could fit in there. People heard about Lunchboxes for Fallout 76 pretty much as soon as the beta hit PC and people started digging. At that point, they basically had certain listings for pretty much every mutation, magazine, bobblehead, as well as certain assigned perks on these lunchboxes. Hypothetically, after opening it, it would give you one of those things. And also in the Atomic Shop files themselves, you could actually find images of what look like lunchboxes. So initially, I think a lot of people held out hope that maybe this is just former code, something Bethesda thought about doing but wasn't actually going to go forward with. But then we got the December 11th patch. What we saw with this was something interesting, updates to these lunchboxes, and actually quite significant updates. Many of the files associated with these were changed, and one of the most interesting parts was the prefix was changed. Originally, when these were found, they were labeled as post ATX, then lunchbox, and then whatever spell it was. Post typically meaning DLC, ATX meaning the Atomic Shop. Those are pretty much universally used headings throughout a lot of Bethesda's files. With this new update, the post was dropped, so now it was just ATX then Lunchbox, seeming to indicate that they were working on these and that they would end up being in the Atomic Shop. At least that's what that heading is otherwise used for. As far as what the files actually show, it basically lists a bunch of different party favors, temporary perks that will be assigned to you after opening this lunchbox. All of these kind of had festive names, and they would do different things, like limiting your hunger, limiting your thirst, making it so you could jump higher, or even other things, like increasing your damage to certain enemies. So at first glance, this isn't that big of a deal. There are tons of things in Fallout 76 that give you temporary buffs or bonuses. That's effectively the entire aid section and chems in a nutshell. But the concerning part about these lunchboxes was that it was one, seemingly random, but also with that ATX prefix, it seemed like they would be sold on the Atomic Shop. A place where you could earn things for free, but also, of course, buy points with real-world money. The reason I bring all of this up is I wouldn't be shocked if maybe that little meat or chicken animation, as I'm going to call it, as you open the lunchbox, is the signifier for whichever party favor you're actually getting here. Like perhaps that animation is tied to not having to eat anymore, but if you got the to-go punch buff, you would get a different animation there. And certainly lunchboxes aren't new to Fallout. They were in Fallout 4. There was little lunchboxes you could find around, and it acted like a loot box. It was a free item that you just found in game, and you'd win a prize at random. In Fallout Shelter, they took on the form of actual paid for loot boxes, and thus a lot of people are speculating that's what they're going to be in Fallout 76. But on the other hand, this all could still be legacy. Bethesda might realize how dumb of a decision it would be to bring these into the game. Fallout 76 has had so many controversies, and it just seems like this is not something they need, at least not yet. If you look at the more recent changes from the January 10th patch to Fallout 76, you can't find any more information on these lunchboxes. You don't have tens of value changes like you got with the December 11th patch. And mind you, Bethesda definitely noticed the community outcry. Following the December 11th patch, a lot of people were pissed and publicly talking about it, some saying they would stop playing this game if paid for loot boxes were introduced. Based on those latest patch notes, I think it is definitely probable that Bethesda realized, okay, we're not gonna do that. That is a very bad decision. And this in-game lunchbox we have is just legacy content that was left there because they were going to add it at some point. Alternatively, you could go the route that, oh, this is getting a lot of attention, we should not put it in the published files anymore, only work on it behind the scenes. And right now, in-game, again, the lunchboxes are only providing cosmetic bonuses. The last time we saw any indication that this actually could provide some tangible buffs to your character was on December 11th, over a month ago at this point. Either way, that's pretty much the story with these lunchboxes. It's very interesting. I'm very interested to see what happens with these. I just have to think that Bethesda can't possibly be that dumb to introduce lunchboxes, but at the same time, maybe you do have higher ups wanting to get further money out of this game because the sales numbers may have not been the best, so they're going to add in additional monetization techniques such as this one, something that a lot of other games use. And in conclusion, the simple reality is, as of right now, we don't know. Maybe these lunchboxes will actually end up being what everyone hopes they're not. On one side of me, you definitely have the, well, it certainly looks like it's going to be one thing, so it probably is going to be that other thing. But on the other side of me, you have to be like, they can't be this stupid, right? And the fact that there were no new changes behind the scenes in these latest patch notes gets me a little bit more hopeful for that route. Although one thing before we totally end off this video, not related to the Fallout side, so if you're only here for that, you can click off now. But in the next week, I am going back to school. So with that, there should potentially be some slight changes to my upload schedule. Basically, this semester I am in my final semester and I have a few of those classes that I just have to take, so I don't have as much luxury or freedom in actually making my schedule. So there's a few unfortunate timings of my classes. In effect, I basically have both morning and night classes most days. So class at 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. and then something like 4 to 5 p.m. What this means is I'll probably have overall earlier content because a lot of it will be made the night before, or if I don't actually finish it the night before, it'll be later content because I will have to do it after my first class and before my second class. At the end of the day, nothing should change all that much. There might be a few gap days where I don't post anything because I'm either moving into college, which speaking of, I tweeted about this earlier, but of course, the first snowstorm of the year is coming right on the day I was going to move back to school into my apartment. I could go on some of the follow-up days, but it's supposed to be like a foot of snow, and it's probably gonna snow in surrounding regions, so the whole drive back to college could be a nightmare. Either way, I just wanted to mention it at the end of this video rather than making a standalone update video. But with that, hopefully you guys did enjoy. Hopefully we'll find out in the coming weeks what these lunchboxes end up being, and I hope to see you all next time. Later.